They laughed at him, and today, they pay to hear what he has to say. Slow motion, he walks alone in the dark. No cheering crowd, just echoes. Jaxon Blake wasn't born ready. He was born scared, weak, quiet, invisible. The kind of guy no one notices until he decides to stop accepting life as it is. He wasn't talented. He wasn't the strongest. He had no connections, no fame, no money. But he had one thing the world completely underestimated: the decision to never be the same again. At first, life beat him down. He held back the tears, got lost. He gave up inside, but on the outside, he still smiled. He went through the kind of pain that doesn't show in pictures, the kind of battle no one posts online. But it was there at rock bottom that he realized no one was coming to save him. And in that silence, when everything seemed lost, he woke up. It wasn't a miracle. It was a choice. And when he came back, he didn't come back to fit in. He came back to take over. The boy no one noticed became the man no one can ignore. Today, Jaxon doesn't inspire because of what he has. He inspires because of what he endured, because of the war no one saw, the nights no one understands. This isn't about motivation. It's about survival, transformation, purpose. But before becoming all that, Jaxon had to lose everything. Before everything changed, Jaxon was just going with the flow. He woke up without hunger, went to sleep without peace, locked in a room with the lights off. But the noise was all in his head. Days blurred together. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, all the same. He pretended to be okay. Said, I'm good, but nothing was good. His phone rang less and less. People started treating him like that guy who gave up. Friends turned into acquaintances. Acquaintances turned into silence. He smiled on the outside, but on the inside, he was falling apart. He looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the reflection anymore. There was no anger, no strength, just that heavy, dragging, constant emptiness. He tried to distract himself, tried to fool himself, but no distraction could keep the lie going. The truth is, he was tired, not of everything, but of himself. Tired of being a spectator in his own life. Tired of pretending everything was fine, and then came rock bottom. It wasn't a blow up. It was a series of silences that slowly killed him inside. A no that hurt more than usual. A message that was read and ignored. A comment that hit deep. You had potential. And then it hit him. Potential doesn't fulfill destiny. Action does. Jaxon was never the type to scream. But that day, his silence was deafening. That's when he realized he either had to change or he was going to drown. No one saw the exact moment, but he remembers it like it was yesterday. There was no epic music, no speech, just him and the unbearable weight of staying the same. He woke up and just laid there staring at the ceiling for 40 minutes, motionless. His body was tired, his mind exhausted. That morning looked like any other, but something was burning differently inside. It was like his body was screaming, enough. He thought about the promises he made but didn't keep, the chances he let slip, the times he knew what needed to be done but didn't do it. And for the first time, he felt angry at himself. Angry for being weak. Angry for staying silent when he should have spoken up. Angry for settling for a life he never chose. He walked up to the mirror, standing there, face to face with himself. He didn't see a man. He saw a reflection twisted by excuses. That's when it hit him. No one was coming to save him. He either flipped the switch, or he'd spend the rest of his life trying to put out internal fires with empty buckets. He stood there, silent, just him, the reflection and the truth. And then came the shift. It wasn't a bang. It was a click, a whisper from deep within his soul. I'm not coming back the same. That day, he decided to disappear for a while, to vanish from the chaos, from the distractions, from everyone's expectations. Not to run away, but to rebuild. No one understood. Some laughed. A few called it crazy, but Jaxon knew what was coming wasn't meant to be explained. It was meant to be felt. He didn't know where to start, but he knew exactly what he'd never accept again. And that was the beginning, the start of a silent war against his habits, against his vices, against his old self. From that point on, every choice became a battle, and he stepped into every one of them. That's when it started, the part no one saw, the part no one clapped for, the part no one posted about. While the world kept spinning in the noise, Jaxon dove into silence. He disappeared from social media, cut out shortcuts, burned every bridge that led him back to his comfort zone. The days turned into battlegrounds. He woke up before the sun. His body ached, his mind even more. But he got up anyway, because it wasn't about motivation anymore. It was about commitment. Every workout was a conversation with pain. Every page he read, a new weapon against ignorance. He began to build, piece by piece, the man he wanted to become. No audience, no likes, no one around. And that's when he started to understand it's in the dark that the foundation is laid. While others wanted quick results, he wanted structure. He wanted to be able to look in the mirror and not feel ashamed again. But it wasn't easy. There came hunger, exhaustion, loneliness, and along with it, doubt. Is this even going to work? Is it worth it? But every time that voice crept in, he answered it with action. Because he learned that the mind lies, but the body doesn't, and his body knew it was getting stronger, not just physically, mentally, spiritually, a man at war with himself. And the more he won on the inside, the more the world outside started to shift. But he didn't celebrate. He didn't show off. Because he wasn't doing it to impress anymore. He did it because it's who he was becoming. He started talking less, doing more. Started to realize real respect isn't demanded, it's earned in silence, and in that silence, Jaxon Blake became dangerous, not to harm, but to prove it's possible. That even without talent, even without luck, even being underestimated, with discipline and purpose, anyone can become unbreakable. But no one will see that process, because it happens where the cameras don't reach, where only the strong have the courage to stay in the invisible war. The pain started to change shape. It was still there, but now it felt familiar. It was no longer the enemy. It had become a sign that he was pushing past his own limits, a sign that finally he wasn't the same anymore. The man who had once fallen didn't exist anymore. What remained was something new, quieter, heavier, more aware. And for the first time, Jaxon wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. He was proving to himself that he was capable of living above average. The mornings didn't hurt as much anymore. His mind stopped fighting him. Now, it obeyed. Because consistency taught him what emotion never could. That strength isn't an explosion, it's persistence. The results started to show, not just in his body, but in the way he walked, the way he looked, the way he no longer needed to say much. People noticed, but they didn't understand, because no one saw what he had to face to get there. The internal battles, the lonely choices, the daily grind. But Jaxon knew, and that was enough. He didn't want a stage. He wanted peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that if everything collapsed again, he'd know exactly how to rebuild. Because now he had a weapon few ever carry, self-awareness. Pain turned into power, and power turned into silence. It was never about conquering the world. It was about conquering himself. Every single day. When Jaxon came back, he didn't come back looking for approval. He came back because he knew he no longer fit in that place, or in that old version of himself. People saw the body, but couldn't read the soul anymore, because now it spoke a different language. The language of someone who fought alone, who bled in silence, who didn't wait to be saved. He rebuilt himself. He looked people in the eye, steady, present, like someone who's no longer afraid to be exactly who he is. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. Because when you rebuild yourself, you don't owe anyone an explanation. He realized some people can't stand seeing someone win without taking the normal path, because his victory exposed a lot of hidden failure. Jaxon stopped chasing applause, stopped trying to please everyone. Now he walks in silence, but every step weighs tons. He used to want to be heard. Now he wants to be remembered, but not as the most famous, not as the most applauded. He wants to be remembered as the one who didn't quit, the one who had every reason to stop and kept going anyway. The one who was doubted, ignored, forgotten, and still became someone. He didn't have luck, but he had faith. He didn't have help, but he had courage. Jaxon Blake no longer belongs to the same world that shaped him. He built another one, a world where character matters more than status, where your word means more than applause, where consistency is more beautiful than talent. And he understood. No one remembers those who went with the flow, but everyone remembers the ones who went against the current and didn't drown. Jaxon didn't come back the same, because he chose to let the weak version of himself die, so the man he refused not to become could finally be born. And that choice changes everything. Jaxon Blake won, but he didn't beat the world. He didn't beat other people. He beat himself. He beat comfort, self-sabotage, the need for approval. He buried the version of him that waited for things to happen, and built the one that made things happen. Today he doesn't need a stage, because he is the show, not because of what he owns, but because of what he represents. He represents the ones who don't give up, the ones who train in the dark, the ones who fall and get back up quietly, the ones who don't need to be seen to keep going. Jaxon became living proof that if you don't give in, no one can stop you. But now, the question isn't about him anymore. It's about you. Are you going to stay there, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the perfect motivation? Or are you going to do what needs to be done? Because no one's coming to save you. No one's going to carry your story for you. You either become the main character in your life, or you sit back and watch it pass you by. Jaxon already made his choice. Now, it's your turn. If this story hit something deep in you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel. This isn't about pretty speeches. It's about truth. Every week, a new video to remind you of who you can become. And if you know someone out there still fighting, send them this video. Because this might be exactly what they needed to hear. Now drop it in the comments. Which version of yourself needs to die so the new one can be born? Now it's on you. Get up, act, and never come back the same.